My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I am with Sherianna Boyle. So she is the founder of Emotional Detox Coaching, the creator of the Cleanse Method, author of 11 books, and the host of Just Ask Spirit podcast. So I am very excited to see where our conversation goes today. So welcome to the show, Sherianna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, where do we start there? So I guess what made you end up going into emotional detox coaching and the cleanse method? I feel like they're very similar to energy work. So tell us a bit about that.
Sure. Well, I was interested. My Emotional Detox was my seventh book at this point. So I was already writing books about energy. And prior to Emotional Detox, I wrote a lot about anxiety and helping people mindfully through anxiety. And then I really wanted to focus on emotions and learn more about them and teach more about them. And so I did a lot of research. I presented it to my publisher and I said, I want to write a book called Emotional Detox, and here's what I have. And they said, okay. So they were ready to move forward with me. And then about 5 weeks later into the process, I found myself needing an emotional detox. So I went through, I had sort of a series of unforeseen circumstances that showed in my life. And to the point where honestly, Catherine, I was like, I don't think I can write this book. Like, who the heck am I? Right? How am I supposed to tell other people? Like, I need this. and, and so the publisher did a wonderful thing for me. They said, you're going to write this book. And they took all the deadlines off. And they said, take all the time you need. And that was the greatest gift they ever gave me. So I really had time to flesh out what is an emotional detox. And the best part was, had I not gone through my own set of t- traumatic circumstances, it wouldn't have come out the way it did, because I was literally like watching it and thinking to myself, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. I was able to tease that out because I was going through it myself. And that's when cleanse came through. So the cleanse is the 7 steps. And since then, cleanse method, quote unquote, has been my method in the last 5 books that I've written. And so I use it not just for emotional detoxing. I use it for connecting to spirit. I teach people how to use the cleanse for manifesting. It's sort of it's a set of tools that is created in one 7-step process.
Yeah, which is such a beautiful way, but it's also amazing that you got to actually do it yourself to make sure it works, I guess, because, and I guess that was almost spirit saying to you, you can't write about this yet. You have to go through it all so that you know it actually works, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because at the time I was in therapy. I went to, that's what you do, right? When you're having a
Yeah.
hard time, I thought, what do I do? What do I do? Right. And I've been teaching yoga and mindfulness and all of that now I've been teaching it for about 24 years back then. So this is Emotional Detox was published in 218. Or no, two, yeah, 218. And I went to yoga and I was like, I basically wanted to give the yoga teacher the middle finger. I mean, I was like, no, like, you don't, this, and here I am, like a yoga teacher. I'm like big into all of this stuff. But I just said, no, like for certain people in certain situations, that's just not going to fly. And so when I was in therapy, the best part that The therapist was great. I found a wonderful person who was aligned with everything I had learned about emotions. And then she got distracted and she went to deal with what I think it was her phone. And in that moment, that's when I started to hear the cleanse come through. So I started to hear spirit. It was like in that moment of silence where I'm vulnerable, I'm open. She leaves the room and I hear literally like a voice. And I left there, and this is how I knew it was something. I left there and I said to myself, that's the last time I'm going to to therapy. I'm done. And I'd been going for a
Mm.
while at this point. And that's just not how you do it. Like, you don't just leave. Usually there's closure and you talk about, but I was like, that's the last time. And it wasn't the therapist or anything. It was the feeling like I needed to listen to what was coming through and I needed nothing else distracting me. No other opinions, no other methods, no other terminology. I just needed to sit down and listen to the guidance. And that's when cleanse came in.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful reflection, Sherianna, because it is in that silence that often the most gold nugget moments of our life come through, right? Because there's no expectation there. You were just, there to talk to this therapist, but at the same time, you got all the answers you needed coming from within, which is the beautiful part of that share.
Yeah. And isn't that the point of therapy?
Mhm.
I mean, I suppose it was a successful therapy me to that point, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then once you had those answers, then did you feel like, okay, now I know what to do and I can start to put this into my book and start sharing it more with people?
Well, I was playing with the cleanse. I was asking questions. I was talking to spirit on a regular basis. I was trying it with clients. I was guinea pigging people, without them knowing they were sort of my guinea pig. And so that took maybe 6 or 7 months of trying things out. Little bit here, a little bit there, also trying on myself, and then until the whole thing came through, and I was like, "Okay, there it is." It's like finding the recipe, and you're like, "There it is," right? That's what I was looking for. And so then it was practicing it. Once I had the system, then it became, okay, of course, I had to finish the book, you know? So it took, I don't know, maybe a year and a half for almost by the time the book came out, we're looking at about 2 years later.
Wow.
So I'm going through my emotional detox. I'm creating the emotional detox and cleanse. 2 years later, the book comes out. And then, believe it or not, a year right after the book was done, I started writing another emotional detox book. There was more channeling. So I wrote emotional detox for anxiety. And I don't know how I did that. I don't know how I wrote a book that quick, but I think all I can say is it was just still coming and needed to birth into another book. So I just sort of immersed myself in this world.
Yeah, and when you're in flow, it's amazing how quickly you can get stuff done, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's like that download from spirit and you just like, I just need to get it out as fast as I can. It's almost like your human fingers can't keep up with the amount of information coming through and you're just there
It's,
typing like crazy. and
yeah,
and
just
then
get it
yeah.
out, right? It's like giving birth to a child, like just get it out. It can't stay in
Yes.
me forever, right?
Exactly. And he and yeah, and I love that. And I love that it just then led to like another book and another book because it's almost like when you start writing and channeling spirits information through it can influence your writing. They're like, you're not done yet. Here's the next thing. You're not done yet.
No.
Here's the
And I'm
next
like,
thing. And more
"Really?
keeps
Come
coming through.
on."
Yeah,
It's a lot of work,
exactly.
right? And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you don't write it, and then they'll just spirit will give it to somebody else to write. So, when you get that intuitive hit, you have to just act on it because otherwise, that you'll lose your moment and you'll lose that opportunity. So you just have to do what
Mm.
and honor what comes through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is about honoring what you feel and really I went off to write Just Ask Spirit. Well, I wrote Energy in Action after that, after the three emotional detox books ended up popping out of me. And the third one, Emotional Detox, now was more because people kept asking me, how do I do this on my own? How do I do this without you? What do I do? And so I wrote 135 cleanses in that book. I was like, I'm just going to write down the cleanses step by step so everyone knows. And then I started using the cleanse for other things. And that's where energy and action came through. And it was all about manifesting. And that was the same thing. Spirit came in and said, now you're going to write a book on the spiritual laws. And I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I
Yes, you are.
literally, I said, no, I'm not. It's already been written about. You know how many times? Look at The Secret. Look at the book, The Secret. Look at the movie. Like, I'm not going there. That is well charted territories. And they didn't talk to me for a little while after that, maybe because I pushed them away. And then I sat down, they said, no, you're going to teach them about the light, how to manifest with light. And I was like, okay, now you got me interested. Now you got me
Yeah.
interested because nobody's
It's
talking about that.
different. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
different, Sherianna. Stop being like everyone else. It's different. Spirit has a unique thing for you to share.
Exactly. I said, okay, I'm up for that. I like that. I can talk about that. Anything that's not already, I have a big thing where I don't read other people's things because unless I'm doing research, because I don't want to accidentally pull. I think that's just sort of the ethical training in me. And I'm a psychology professor and, we're always talking about that stuff. So I purposely try not to pull, the best I can. Of course, we all get influenced by each other, but when I'm writing, I don't read other people's stuff unless I'm looking for research.
Yeah, I have that sometimes when I'm channeling for people, especially because sometimes you have like pre-intuitive hits when you're working with someone. And it's like, hang on, is this my opinion of what should be happening, or is this actually what's coming through, right? And you have to use that discernment in that moment. And it's like, oh no, actually, I just already knew that because that was my intuition kicking in, but now I'm getting it confirmed. So thank you. And it's really, like you said, you have to try and filter out the other information coming in from around you. Otherwise, it makes it really difficult to just focus on what's coming through and what's true for what you need to share.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's just about being a clear vessel for people, and I think that's why I quit therapy because I think you can't have all those influences on you, all the noise, all the, opinions or reactions of other people. And you can just be sort of a pure channel, the best that you can be.
Exactly. And I guess, I feel to ask, I just keep hearing ask her about the podcast. They're like, ask her about the podcast. So tell us a little bit
They're
about your
talking to you right
podcast.
now.
They're like, ask her about
Yeah.
the podcast. I'm like,
Us-
okay.
That's so funny. Yeah. So this is the first time ever. So I heard to start I had Emotional Detox podcast. It's the same. It's actually, I had switched the name. I was guided to because I didn't want to be pigeonholed into emotional detox. I really, you may feel this way too, Catherine, that, um, I didn't want to just be the anxiety lady. Right. And I just felt like there's so much more to this emotional detoxing stuff. So I still talk about emotional detox on the show. It's still covered because that is how I teach people how to connect to spirit. I tell them, if you're not processing your emotions, like shutting the door. It's like I'm not interested kind of thing. Again,
Exactly.
it's all about the keeping the energy clear, keeping your vibration up. And so that is very much a part of it. So Spirit said, I wasn't ready to write it, Catherine, just us, Spirit. And that book actually took me longer than Emotional Detox, because it wasn't longer in that I didn't understand it. I was trying to figure out how to blend the emotional detox with it. how to make it different than what's out there. Cause there's a lot out there already and there's a lot of good stuff out there. But what's the difference between this book and another book? And so it took time to really sort through that. But I heard start the podcast first and then write the book, which was interesting. I'd
Yeah.
never had that kind of guidance before. So I said, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah. And there's always a reason for that, right? There's like a reason for, you had to start it. And it's almost like when you talk it into this plane, I want to say when you talk it into this plane, it makes it easier then to write about it.
Well, what ended up happening is I ended up asking the people I would interview, I would ask them how they defined spirit. And so I ended up getting about 150 interviews. And it was great because I'm sort of listening to them thinking, how is it? How are they going to define spirit? And they're all psychic mediums and they're channelers and they're, herbalists and, they got all sorts of people. But how do you define spirit? And I was very interested in that. And it was kind of like my way of doing the research live with them. And sometimes I would have off camera conversations, after the show. Or sometimes I'd forget to ask them, and all the while I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting. Just to get more perspectives on it for the book.
Yeah, which is such a beautiful way to do it because often, when you interview other people, you go, oh, I never considered that perspective, or, that's really intriguing. And or sometimes you get the goosebumps, right? And you're like, oh, that's exactly the piece of information I needed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you have any responses to that were like completely left field and you thought, huh, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't. They're all great people. A lot of them are authors and in the field themselves. Again, channelers. A lot of near death experiences. I definitely talked to a lot of people who had that. I did have an interesting experience with somebody. Oh my gosh, I got to remember this. Somebody who read my book and then just asked spirit. They had a near death experience. They contacted me to be on the show. And then they said, I wanted to meet you because your process and the way that you talk about every energy and everything in your book is exactly of what I experienced in my dear death. And that to me was like, wow, that's pretty cool because I haven't had a near death experience. And so to have someone like that validate you're right on, that was pretty special. I've got to like sit back and remember when you interview so many people, they all start to
Yeah.
get jumbled in your mind. But I've got to sit back and remind, maybe I wrote it down somewhere, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I think it's in the interview. I think they said it in the interview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is so sometimes, when we do this work and we get the intuitive hits and we get all this information and we think, there's still a part of us is like, did I make this all up? Am I crazy? And
Yes.
and then spirit, normally when that happens, I find spirit or the universe will send you a message and you're like, oh, thank you. Thank you for validating me because I just needed a little bit of validation to know I was still going. Even the other week, I channeled trees for people and I was
Oh,
channeling this
trees?
tree.
Oh,
Yeah,
fun.
trees. Fun.
I
It's
love
fun.
that.
And anyway, this story came through and it was so elaborate. And I was like, I don't even know how this would be possible. It was like this story of this tree growing and then two other trees were with it, but then they weren't strong enough. So this other tree encompassed it into itself. Anyway, so I was just trusting the process and I wrote this big story and I sent it to this client. And she sent me a picture just yesterday and she goes, oh my goodness, I was just sitting at the bottom of this tree again, listening to this story, like reading the story again and crying. And she goes, and I looked up and look at the base and it was 3 trees next to each other that have fused together. And I was like, oh, Thank you so much for sharing that. That's
Oh,
amazing. And it's those little moments that you get that you think, oh, thank you. This just validates everything that came
yeah, like,
through.
I'm
It
not some
feels
crazy
right.
person. Yeah, I'm not making this stuff up,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah,
and then you're just really conscious of like, all right, this is working and this is this beautiful flow. It's just working how it's meant to.
yes. Yeah, I agree. It's so important. I mean, everybody needs validation to keep going that you're on the right track. Yeah.
Exactly, especially when
Yeah.
you're playing with energy that people aren't necessarily aware of, or that is
Yeah.
is new information. That's the other thing when it's new, but it's not new. It's just reawakened information. That's probably a better
Yeah.
term.
Yeah. Just As Spirit just came out on audio today, and I it's interestingly enough, I have a Just As Spirit membership, a community that I every single week we meet on Zoom, and it's only 30 minutes, and I channel and I take people through cleanse, and it's like a practice, you need to practice. And lo and behold, I get someone new in the group, and I see them like, oh, this is lovely. This is lovely. And then they come back the next week. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, wait a minute. Something's funky here. I somehow in between, I realized this person followed me, right? On social
Oh,
media. So
yeah.
she's in my group. She follows me. So I follow her back and I look at her profile and I'm like, wait a minute, she's an audio narrator. Wait a minute. So I DM'd her and I said, did you narrate my book? I think you're the narrator of Just Ask Spirit. And she's like, you caught me. Because a lot of times they won't, they like to fly under the radar. And
Ah,
I was like, you're kidding me. And the weird part is she told me later that she had asked her guides, Spirit, to send her new work that was meaningful and valuable. She'd been doing a ton of romance stuff, right? More that kind of audio narration.
yeah.
And she said, you're all of a sudden I get called to narrate your book. Now here's what you don't know. They asked me to narrate it. So
Oh,
the publisher asked me to narrate the book, and they booked me in a studio that's 4 hours from my house through Boston traffic. And I was like, that's like a 6 hour one way. Like, I just knew it's going to be a nightmare. And they were going to pay me, but I was like, you know what? You're not going to pay me enough for that, because I've got to take like 4 or 5 days off of work. So I said, you know
mm,
what? Last minute, I was like, I hope I'm not too late, guys. I'd rather you just have a narrator. So they send me a couple voices and they say, pick the voice you want. And I picked her. And
oh,
then,
how good's
so
that?
she had just asked for, more meaningful work. I hear her voice. She ends up in my group. I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. And it's just amazing to me how spirit works. So now we're good.
Agreed.
Now we're good friends. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely agreed. And I love that you came at that level and then met again. Like that
Yeah.
you were
I'm like,
just,
yeah, yeah. And so now she's a cleanser. She's a committed, again, she's a cleanser.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I asked the guests that come on the show, Sherianna, if there was something you could heal or change in the world, what would it be?
Heal or change in the world. Um, I think people's relationship with their emotions. I think that's what I'm focusing on, and that's what I'm doing is actually it's not a wish. It's sort of that's my mission. How they feel about emotions, and not just judgment wise, but learning how amazing they are, how valuable they are. They're such a higher part of us. They're a part of us that really helps us to reach our unlimited divine potential. And so shifting people's mindset and teaching people how to tap into them, and for whatever you need, whether it's healing or manifesting or connection or just to be calm and relaxed or reassured, it's all there for you. Just gotta, but my guides tell me in the Just Ask Spirit, they said feel first. Feel first comes
Mm.
first, then ask Spirit.
Agreed. Field first. I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Yeah.
And where can people find you, Sherianna, if they want to get your books or if they want to connect with you or join your little tribe?
Sure. Oh, thank you. Sheriannaboyle.com. And the tribe is Just Us Spirit Community. And I do a lot of retreats. So emotional detox, Just Us Spirit. If anyone's interested, weekend retreats, week-long retreats. Then I blend the yoga in that we do cleanse yoga and we do spirit and we do emotional detoxing. So it's just everything at once.
Beautiful. Awesome. I'll make sure to include all that in the show notes as well so people can find you. And thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I love that Spirit put you through that before you could write your book as well.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.